All right, everybody, here's part 2. We are going to get right into it, so roll the intro. What else?
Well, there's some things that we want to look for, such as location of power outlets.
Oh, yeah. So, the reason why we put this on the list is the other day we were in an RV and it was a fifth wheel, and it had this little side bar coffee pot area. It was a nice countertop. It was to sort of the left in the kitchen, a perfect spot for your coffee pot, a toaster, maybe an air fryer, something like that. And I was looking around, but there was no power outlet anywhere close to it. So it was almost, you couldn't even put it to, there was no power. And so the more I was looking around the RV, there just wasn't outlets in the right spots. So it may seem like a silly thing, but you're gonna want to look around and make sure that you have some outlets in the appropriate places. Because Lord knows you don't want to buy one, take it home, and realize you can't plug your stuff in. At least in the appropriate places you would want to plug them in. All right, what else?
We can talk about the different kinds of AC units, regular AC unit or whisper quiet AC unit.
Okay, yeah. So, traditional AC air conditioners are mounted to the roof, and the main output is basically right below it, and it's pretty loud. I mean, it's not like earth-shattering loud, but it's pretty loud. When you get into larger size RVs, whether it's travel trailers and or fifth wheels, toy haulers, Class A's and stuff, a lot of these will then move to having 2 air conditioners, but the same way, one in the front, one in the back. And again, you know, they can be kind of loud, and if you're a light sleeper, it may bother you. These days, the manufacturers have started installing what are called whisper quiet AC units. They're still sort of mounted the same way. They're up on the roof, but they're completely ducted. The intakes are ducted, the outputs are ducted, and it's so much more quiet than the traditional older style AC. So this is not, I think, a big deal breaker for a lot of people, but having a especially if you're going to be a full-timer, you're probably going to want whisper quiet AC. But nevertheless, it's just something to think about. If it's important to you, write it on your list. And that's why we're talking about this. What's going to be important, right? What else might be important?
Warranties.
Warranties, right? How long is this investment going to be warranted for? And like we were talking about before, if you're going to move into it full-time, is it rated for full-time living? So just look at the warranties, look at what's covered on the warranties, and if you're going to decide to get an extended warranty, look at that thorough too. We could do a whole nother video on extended warranties, but just make sure that the warranties are there. The RV that we got, the dealer that we bought it from, it came with a lifetime warranty. However, you do have to have it the RV inspected once a year. The full-time, or I should say lifetime warranty, covers all the mechanicals, right? I mean, the AC and the heater and the heat pump and the water pump, just all the mechanicals, right? The refrigerator, the stove, the microwave, all these things. So just make sure you look at the warranty, all right?
Absolutely. Might want to look at getting an upgraded suspension.
Oh, yes. So, suspension, right? So you're pulling your home down the road, and I don't know if you've ever seen any videos of people that have put their cameras in the RVs, but traditional RVs just have leaf springs. And let me tell you, it's bouncing back there. So if you're going to be full-timing, you might want to look into some upgraded suspension. Again, we could do a whole nother RV about upgraded suspension. I'm not going to cover the details here, but you're going to want to at least ask if the model you're looking at has upgraded suspension, okay? We'll cover upgraded suspension in another video, but for the moment, for making your list, at least ask the question, all right?
If you're looking at an upgraded suspension, you might want to talk about the tires.
Oh, tires. Tires are big guys, right? Again, your home is behind you, running down the roads, and there's some pretty bad roads out there. We've driven all over the country, and we've popped some tires. We are hell on tires.
We are. If there's a nail in the road, we're going to find it.
That's for damn sure. Without a doubt. I need to put some magnets in front of the trucks or something to pick up the nails, because we're going to find them. Look, the manufacturers, in a lot of cases, not always, a lot of them are now really making some great upgrades when it comes to tires. But a lot of them, they've got the cheapest darn tires they can put on there. And so the first thing that you do after you pull your RV out of the lot, you just bought it, you're pulling it off for the first time, you need to go to a tire shop and put appropriate tires on there, all right? Appropriate tires is a whole different conversation. Just ask the dealer if they're upgraded tires. They should be, typically DE, G rated tires. It all comes down to weight, right? So just put it on your list. What kind of tires are they appropriate for the RV, and are they upgraded or standard? Okay. I thought of something.
What'd you think of?
Ladder. Is there a ladder on the back of your RV to get on the roof? Right? Guys, you need to have access to the roof one way or the other. You have to check it. You have to, you have to inspect the roof of your RV. These things, there are some that are one-piece fiberglass, but most of them are not. They're either rubberized or TPO, and they have to be inspected. They occasionally have to be resealed. If you've got solar up there, then you have to go up there to check it and clean them. You have to be able to get on the roof. And so if there's not a ladder already attached to the RV, that means you either have to have someone put one on, or you're gonna have to go buy a ladder to carry with you, which gets into storage. Where are you gonna put it? So, is there a ladder on the back of the RV? Speaking of which, remind me of something else. Solar. Do you want solar on the RV? Now, some people are like, well, what? When I want solar on the RV? Well, look, you might be looking for a lifestyle that keeps you off in the woods, meaning you don't have to be camping in an RV resort or an RV place like a KOA or something like that, where there's power. You just want to go off where there's no power, but you're gonna need some power. So having solar allows you to operate everything that you need off the batteries. Now, if you want that, you need to make sure, or at least ask, if the models you're looking at are already solar prepped. Okay, if they're solar prepped, a lot of the hard work is already done where the wiring is in place. If not, it's a much more expensive install, because now they're gonna drill holes to the roof, and it just, again, is solar gonna be a big thing for you? If it is, ask up front if it's solar prepped. Now, tying into solar is generators. Like, for instance, say you're gonna do a travel trailer. You're not gonna have a generator with that. But most fifth wheels are already prepped to have a generator in them. Some of them already have a generator in them. And so, therefore, you could be completely off grid and not worry about it. The only thing you'd have to worry about is running out of water, right? That's how much water can your tanks carry? So solar and generator kind of tie together. If you're full time, are you gonna want solar? Are you gonna want a generator? Are you gonna want both? Or, not at all. Just put it on the list, right? You don't have to make a decision whether you want it or not, but it's questions to ask as you're going through your process, right? What else is on the list?
Well, you mentioned tank capacity. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, tank capacity, a lot of that has to do with size of the RV. Your smaller ones are just not going to have very large tanks. Your larger ones are going to have bigger tanks. What we mean by tanks is that if you're, again, not in an RV resort or camping somewhere where there's hookups, meaning power and water, you're going to have to carry some water. right? For showers, for washing your dishes, for things like that. And so RVs have a freshwater tank. And so how big is that tank? Which means, you know, how many gallons of water can you possibly carry with you? Now, you're outside the freshwater tank, you're gonna have two other tanks. You're gonna have a gray water tank and you're gonna have a black water tank. Your gray water tank will be for like your sinks, your showers, collecting all that water. The black water tank is for the toilet, okay? And so if you're going to be completely off-grid, you're definitely going to want to make sure how big those tanks are. Now, an offshoot of the black tank is you could have like an eco-friendly type toilet. What's the type of toilet I'm thinking about? A composting toilet. Compositing. A composting toilet. This is going to cut down on the tank space that you need. So, again, put on your list something to talk about with the family of how you're going to live.
Well, you're still talking about tank capacity, so you'll talk about the propane.
Oh, propane tanks, yeah. So, most RVs come with 20-pound propane tanks. Your fifth wheels, we just saw a bunch of them that had 20-pounders, which I was shocked. Most of them will either have dual 30 pounds or dual 40-pound tanks, okay? So depending on what you're going to be doing with your RV, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough propane to power your stove, your hot water heater, and if it's cold outside, if it's wintertime, it's cold outside, the heater for the RV. Now, when you get into Class A's, some of these are completely propane free. They're running aqua-hot systems that run glycol systems under the floor and different things like that. I'm not going to cover that here, but for most people out there, you're going to be burning through some propane, and the colder it is, the more propane that you're going to burn through. So that was one of the, actually it was the very first upgrade that we did to our current RV. Before we pulled it out of the dealer, we put dual 30-pound tanks on there. We bought it with 20-pounders, and we already knew that we burned through a lot of propane being on the road full time. So we wanted 30-pound tanks, so that was the very first thing we did. So what else is on the list?
Well, you're going to want to make sure that you have a comfortable mattress.
Oh, yeah. So,
not just a placeholder.
We learned this the hard way. So, these RV dealers, 95% of the mattresses that come in these things are as hard as a piece of concrete. For those who already have an RV, leave a comment down below if you know what I'm talking about. Right? Hard as concrete. They actually they call them placeholders. They're not spending any kind of money putting any kind of upgraded mattress in RVs for the biggest reason that everybody really has a different style of sleep. Some people like it soft, some people like it firm, and I could go on and on and on. But know it going into this that 95% you're going to have to buy a mattress coming out of that dealership. Because if not, you're going to break your back. Don't go sitting on that thing hard, you will break a tailbone. Right? So, mattress. And this is some of the things that you have to think about, is like after expenses. Right? What isn't going to come inside my RV that I'm going to need to have? Like the ladder. If there's no ladder on the back, you're going to have to go buy one. Mattress, you're going to have to buy one. I think one of the other things we want to talk about is jacking. Are your jacks manual, or are they automatic jacks, right? Self-leveling. If they're manual, that means you got to get out there with this little bar and crank and crank and crank and crank. And then is it level to the left? Is it level to the right? It takes a little bit of time to level. So what a lot of people do is they just carry a cordless drill with the right chuck on there and put that on there, and you're done. You don't, have to have a shoulder replacement because you got manual jacks. But you may have to go buy a cordless drill for this, right? I get an impact, but just things to think about. But the manual system, that's one of the things that we would, one of our wants, not necessarily need, but really a want we want. We want automatic leveling. I don't have to worry about figuring out if we're level or not anymore, right? So when you're looking at the RVs, if you don't want to get out there and crank out and figure out how to level it, then you want to make sure that the RV you're buying has an automatic leveling system. Is that it for the list?
I think the last thing I can think of would be water filtration.
Oh, water, yeah. So if you're going to be connected, even if you're not connecting, even if you're going to be filling up somewhere, you're basically filling up from a hose, out of a hose bib somewhere. And so you're definitely going to want to run that through a water filter. Now, before you fill up your tanks. Or if you parked in an RV resort somewhere, you're going to want to have a filter inline somewhere. Now, some of the RVs come with a water filter already in the system. Some of them do not. A lot of them don't, especially the travel trailers. So ask, right? Does it have a water filter? If not, you're going to want to purchase one of those as well, because you're definitely not going to want to be, running water out of the tap and drinking it. It's just like drinking water out of a hose. So definitely make sure that you ask if it's got a water filter. Right? Was that the last thing on the list?
I think so, yeah.
Right. Well, look, guys, I know it was a lot of stuff to sort of think about, and we're really just scratching the surface. We could go into a lot more detail with some of the subjects, but this will get you going and point you in the right direction. If you create this list, write this stuff down, you can't go wrong. When you go into a dealer and present this list to them, they're going to point you in the right direction, and when you've purchased, you've gotten what you wanted. You're not going to pull that thing off the lot, get to your first campsite and go, crap, we forgot this, right? So spend a little time, do a little research, create this list, have a conversation with one another, and find out what are the absolutely must-haves and what are the, it would be nice to have, like a dishwasher. I'd love to have a dishwasher in the kitchen.
That'd be awesome.
Right? Some of the newer ones, they've got these beautiful Fisher Pickel dishwashers. They're like pull-out drawers. Amazing, right? But you got to get into your higher-end ones to get these things. But nice to have. So look, thanks for joining us today. Do us a favor, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button at the same time. We appreciate you, and we will see you on the road. I got Lisa here again, and it didn't cost me a foot rub. That may not make sense to a lot of you. If it doesn't, you can click on that little link above. We talked about that in another video. Anyway. Hey, it wasn't agreed upon prior.
Continue straight on, then use the left lane to continue onto Southwest Mountain Highway. Use the left lane to continue onto Southwest Mountain Highway.
You just won't shut up. Good Lord, man. There was no power outlets.
Turn left onto Southwest Mountain Highway. Turn left onto Southwest Mountain Highway. For 18 miles, continue straight on. In 1 mile, turn left onto County Road 15A.
In 1 mile, turn left, says Jeeves. All right, with nothing in it.
Turn left onto County Road 15A.
So what that basically means is
3/4 of a mile, turn right onto State Route 710. Turn right onto State Route 710.
Jeeves was going to interrupt me, so I don't know why I keep on talking. Oh, yeah.
He just has to put his 2 cents worth in.
I know, he just keeps on running his mouth. He's worse than me.